I just spent the last 6 hours grinding through spreadsheets, trying to come up with some actual good data for a video that will come out in 2 days. But I'm ready for a break. I'm ready to hop in some fantasy football drafts. Here, we are going to do what we've been doing. Okay. One of my favorite tournaments, like I said, if you're new to Underdog, I'd recommend this is the tournament that you get in. The Fast Puppy is live out right now. We've been doing this pretty much every single day on the live stream. $5 buy-in, $1 million prize pool. 186,000 people have already entered into this draft. I mean, it is a ridiculous amount of people that are flying into this tournament. We will be one of them, as we always are. And we are in here at pick 10. I immediately recognize some of the names out here. We have Zachary in here at pick 12. I cannot tell you how much Zachary does for us. He is the freaking guy. We have Vinny in here at 11. We have Ladex out here at 8. I Just Follow, I believe, was in a stream last night with us. But those are just the names off the top of my head. So if you're in this live chat, please let me know if you are also in this draft with us. And maybe I did not get to call out your name. Ledex, I saw you out here at pick 8, my friend. Paper Ape in here at 1. TGL in here at 9. Scott in at 7. And yes, I avoided pick 9, but Zachary, thank you, my guy, for everything. Zach is helping us with the draft guide. By helping us with the draft guide, I mean putting everything together for us. Promise you, my guy, I'm writing these. I'm writing these guys up. It is very frustrating. I don't mind collecting the data and all that stuff for the guide itself, because whenever I'm collecting data, I can be listening to a podcast at the same time. The issue is once I start to have to switch over to like the writing part of the draft guide, then it is such a pain because I can't be listening to anything at the same time other than like music with no lyrics. So Ram, happy to see you, my friend. But yeah, looking at this draft, super standard start. This is the exact 5 picks you'd expect based off ADP. Hopefully things get a little bit freaky near the end of round 1, but we'll see. And my hair looks like I haven't showered in 10 days, so we're going to throw a hat on. But we should have, I want to say, maybe 3 drafts going tonight. I mean, we drafted 3 teams last night. I think we're probably going to start pushing these streams to draft more and more, where let's see if we can get to 3 drafts tonight. We'll see. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take Puka Nacua at 10. We know we need at least 1 wide receiver here at the 1-2 turn. If Gibbs makes it back to us at 15, I'll be happy to go running back. If Gibbs doesn't make it back, I don't know what we're going to do, because the issue is if you're taking someone at the 1-2 turn, I kind of want to have a unique build here. So if all of a sudden we just go through and maybe we take like Jonathan Taylor here at 16, there are going to be a lot of Puka Nacua, Jonathan Taylor teams where I do want to have a little bit more of a unique combo. And honestly, Harrison with an ADP of 13.5, not going to be a super common pick here at 15 to line up with Puka. So we will take Harrison, go wide receiver at the gate. This will give us a little flexibility at the 3-4 turn where I really like the tight end prices. But Saram says, in a shallow 12-team PPR format, where would you rank Bijan and Gibbs? And what's the earliest you'd take them? So this is a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex format. If everybody's looking at this, obviously different than Underdog. If you're in a league where you can only start 2 wide receivers and 1 flex, I would say that you are going to be able to find very strong wide receiver values later on. And if that's going to be the case, personally, I think you can move Bijan and Breece Hall ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown, ahead of Justin Jefferson, and ahead of Jamar Chase. Once you get to CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, I think it's going to be a lot closer. But on Underdog, I have Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall ranked at 7 and 8. I have Breece ranked ahead of Bijan, but besides the point. If it was just a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, I think I'd probably move Bijan and Breece up to 4 and 5. Okay. But Nick says, Mason, just better hope I don't get in the next one. We'll see, my guy. We will see. But we have Waddle making it down to 23. Nico Collins, 22. Devonta Smith goes at 17. Ledex sets themselves up with, I'm assuming they're going to go Jalen Hurts either at 32 or 41. So they're going all in on this Eagles offense. Antler Eye says, hey, bud, trying to get my spot at the meetup. I emailed you again today. Did you receive it? I did not receive it, my friend. If you emailed me, I don't know which email you sent it to. If you say are getting this goes to anybody here. If you're getting a hotel for the Flock meetup, that is exactly 1 month from now, August 22nd, Austin, Texas, you better be at the meetup. So the tickets are going to be like 10, 15, 20 bucks. Essentially, the only reason we have tickets is I need to tell the venue how many people are going to be there. And we can't just do that with an RSVP because then 1,000 people RSVP that aren't coming. But if you get a hotel, then I know you're coming. So your tickets are free. So just email me your hotel receipt and I'll hook you up with free tickets. The email to send it to is mason.dodd@flockfantasy.com. mason.dodd@flockfantasy.com. Dodd is spelled D-O-D-D. Or you can send it to fantasyflocknetwork@gmail.com. Either one works. But John says he's going to be at the meetup. Happy to meet you, my guy. Let's go. Now, Sam Laporta off the board at 32. I mean, I think we are on record. I really do like taking Laporta at the 3-4 turn. I'm not a massive fan of taking Derrick Henry here in comparison to some of the other running backs that are going to be available to us later on. And knowing that the wide receiver drop-off's coming relatively soon, I will go ahead. We'll take Stephon Diggs at 34. I'll take Derrick Henry in round 4. Said that a bunch. Personally, Derrick Henry in round 3. In underdog drafts in particular, where running back values are very easy to find later on. Personally, that's not something I'm going to be doing for a multitude of reasons this season. I will have a Derrick Henry video coming out very soon. But if Derrick Henry were to make it to us 39, I'll go Derrick Henry. If Derrick Henry doesn't make it to us, we have a couple different options. We could go ahead. We could take Tank Dell. We could go Travis Kelce. Probably not going to go George Pickens. So it's either going to be Henry, Dell, or Kelce. Now that Kelsey's gone, let's just go ahead. Like I said, not a massive fan of taking Derrick Henry at ADP of 29 at the moment. But if we get Derrick Henry at 39, I think it will be a unique build compared to the rest of the team. And we can afford to go with the running back, considering the fact that we go 3 wide receivers out the gate. And Ledex does indeed get the Jalen Hurts double stack with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith there. But Superstar says, besides 100K that you won, have you won anything else? Yes. I also won the Bulldog 2 for 20,000 on Underdog, and I also got 16th place in Best Ball Mania for 10,000. Now, if I got 16th place in Best Ball Mania this season, where the payouts are a little bit different, it's not as heavy to the top, and instead it's more flat throughout, we would have won another 100,000 with that 16th place finish. But when we got 16th place 2 years ago, sadly, it was only 10,000 for 16th. But anyway, real quick, if you are confused what we're doing here, this is what we do every single day in the live stream. We draft on Underdog Fantasy, my favorite place to draft. It's best ball, so no time commitment at all during the season. So, of course, if you want to join a draft with us, we're doing it every single night. You can find that link in the description, in the comment section. Drafts are running literally 24/7 on Underdog. And it's best ball, so no time commitment at all during the season. That's how I draft hundreds of teams a year. That's how I won 150,000 on Underdog 2 years ago. And if you wanted to join draft, and also you can find that link description comment section. Code FLOCK will hook you up with my 2024 fantasy football draft guide, my 2024 fantasy football rankings, a 50% deposit bonus up to $250. You do have to be in one of these states though if you want to draft on Underdog. That's the bad news. Now the good news is it's pretty much available in every state, and last I checked, it's available in Canada as well outside of Ontario. We had someone in the comment section today tell me that I needed to let people know, because I guess maybe there are some Canadians that watch this that don't realize that. But Anthony Richardson off the board at pick 53. Completely fine seeing Anthony Richardson go. We do not take Michael Pittman Jr. Really the only time I'd be upset is if we took Pittman at pick 34, pick 39, and we were wanting to get Richardson at the 5-6 turn. But what we can do here instead is we can go ahead and if we really wanted to, we could take C.J. Stroud at pick 63 to pair up C.J. Stroud with Stephon Diggs. Now, not necessarily something that we have to do. We also have the ability to go we have the ability to go Kyler Murray a little bit later to pair him up with Marvin Harrison Jr. But now that you have McLaurin off, I think we will take Godwin here as our wide receiver 4. And I may reach dramatically on CJ Stroud. Dub says Nova Scotia here, and it works. Okay, that's what I thought. I thought Underdog was everywhere in Canada but Ontario. But I just didn't want to say that for certainty and then have people screaming at me in the comments. Okay. Now, James Cook off the board to Zach at pick 60. And Rachaad White. Zach going with the unique build here. 4 running backs with only 2 receivers. I'm assuming Zach's going to be forced to slam wide receivers in the coming rounds. Okay. We are going to go ahead. We will reach for CJ Stroud to pair up CJ Stroud with Stephon Diggs. Don't necessarily know if it's the right thing to do. Obviously, we are reaching dramatically on ADP. I've said for years now that obviously we want to be correlating our teams. We want to be chasing these stacks. But typically, we don't want to be reaching dramatically on them because there'll be other teams that have the same stack in the tournament. However, they get a better value on their stack. And then all of a sudden, maybe you're dead in the water. So it is a spot where typically I don't love to reach. But honestly, I think CJ Stroud is a perfectly fine value here anyway. If I were to just set my rankings, this is about where I would have Stroud. And we have Stephon Diggs. So maybe you can break the tie and say, well, Mason, how about on a team where you don't have Marvin Harrison Jr., you decide to instead take like Kyle Pitts here at 63. And then you go Kyler Murray if CJ Stroud doesn't fall back to you at 82. And then on a team where you don't have Harrison, then you reach on CJ Stroud. Doesn't that make more sense? My answer to that is probably, maybe. And yeah, we should maybe do that. But it is what it is. Be More Savage says, CJ has 0 rushing. Be lucky to be a top 10 QB. Couple different things here that I will say are just factually incorrect, my friend. Let's go ahead and let's pull up a couple different things with this. First thing that I want to look at is what happened last season in CJ Stroud's rookie year. If we look at quarterbacks that played 10 or more games last season, CJ Stroud as a rookie was the 7th quarterback in the NFL. That's including a Tank Dell injury. That's including no Stephon Diggs. And we'd naturally assume that the player going into their second season is going to improve. The second thing is, as we sit here and say, oh, CJ Stroud has no rushing, I agree if you're looking at a quarterback like Jared Goff, or Jared Goff gives you 20 rushing yards last season. Matthew Stafford gives you 65 rushing yards last season. You could say they have literally 0 rushing. CJ Stroud, definitely not going to be some Lamar Jackson level rusher. He did have 3 rushing touchdowns and 167 rushing yards. So, well, definitely I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend like CJ Stroud is going to compete with Lamar in terms of rushing volume this next season. To throw him in the same bucket as, say, Stafford, as Tua, as Goff, there is a difference there. CJ Stroud should, if he just repeats what he did last season, this is someone that should give you an extra like 30 points on the ground, which is more than nothing. 30 points on the ground is equivalent to, quick maths here, 800 passing yards? What's 30 times 25? I'm about to really embarrass myself. 750, I apologize. We are right there. I'm not going to take Jameson Williams here. I'm actually going to reach on Jonathan Brooks. It's a team where I think we have enough production at the beginning of the season with some of these old men here with Derrick Henry or Madre Stevenson, where we can afford a pick where we probably sacrifice the median projection at the beginning of the season in hopes of chasing the upside that you'd have at the end of the year. Now, there would be a couple other instances where in different drafts, maybe we don't go Jonathan Brooks. One of those is if we were to find a spot where it makes sense to take Jameson Williams, it would almost be exactly where Athletics decides to. There will be drafts that on this side of the board, I took Sam Laporta and I want to set up potentially a double stack with Jared Goff later on. If I need a receiver, I took Sam Laporta. Sure, I'll go ahead and I'll take Jameson Williams. Or if I'm just super desperate for a wide receiver where I'm playing catch up, then maybe we go with them. Now, there'll be other spots where maybe we decide to go with a different running back other than Jonathan Brooks. I'll say, one, if it is an eliminator tournament on Underdog, no way in hell I'm going Jonathan Brooks here. Two, if it's the marathon on Underdog, no way in hell I'm going Jonathan Brooks there. In those tournaments, points of weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, they matter a lot. Here in the puppy, I'm really trying to optimize for the fantasy football playoff tournament in weeks 15, 16, 17. Or maybe we can also say, okay, on a team that we don't have the running back production, we didn't take Derrick Henry where we did at pick 39, and we really just need someone to come out here and give us a baseline floor through the entire season. Maybe in that case, we go with a different player than Jonathan Brooks. Maybe there we go, James Conner. Maybe there we go, Zamir White. But I think the setup here for the profile that Brooks has, which is you're probably not getting much at the beginning of the season, but you do have a high ceiling for the end of the year. I think that profile makes sense for this construction. Okay. Now, let's swing this over. Now, Love goes 103. At this point, we have a very well-balanced start. It's pretty much just take whoever you want. I mean, wide receiver, we have Puka, Harrison, Diggs, Godwin. Quarterback, we have Stroud. Running back, we have Henry, Ramadre, Jonathan Brooks. Yeah, Sutton goes. So at this point, I mean, it is a situation in which I don't have a super simple answer of what we should be doing. I'm not a big Shaheed guy at all, but I don't think we want to go running back here at the turn. And looking at the wide receiver teardrops, once Shaheed goes, I don't want anything to do with Shakira. Brandon Cooks, I don't really want anything to do with him here either unless I have Dak Prescott. So I know that there are a handful of running backs that I'm okay taking. I see Zachary there at the turn, who only had 2 wide receivers up until this point, knowing that his hand's going to be forced. He has to go wide receiver. And I want to give ourselves the flexibility where maybe we don't have to make that same decision here. We could go with an unstacked Jaden Daniels. Our other potential stacking options for this build are going to be Stafford. Honestly, it's going to be a spot where we go with an unstacked Jaden Daniels. Now, with that being said, we do have the ability to go Jahan Dotson a little later on. Not only do we have the ability to go with Jahan Dotson, but we can also go with the receiving back here in Austin Eckler, which obviously is not as exciting, but we can also go with Ben Sinnott. So, it's a interesting spot. If I was more excited about our other potential QB stacking options based off the receivers that we had taken previously in this draft, I don't think we take the falling value in Jaden Daniels. If we weren't taking Jaden Daniels, presumably just because we are chasing rushing upside, I would be more hesitant to take him unstacked up until this point, even if we have the potential stacks later on. But my thing is, even if we whiff on Dotson, even if we whiff on Ben Sinnott, you could get a spike week in the fantasy football playoffs where he goes out there, he gives you 70 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. And then maybe it's not like you need to have Dotson. You don't need to have McLaurin in your lineup to get it done. Or maybe you get Ayuk sent over there, and the spike week actually comes from Ayuk. The large percentage of the field took Ayuk in the second round when he was with the Niners, and they don't have the Daniels stack. So I think that there are a couple different paths that I can try to spin up a little bit of a story here and make it seem like we did not just make a bad draft pick of Jaden Daniels. But P47W says, what's the first thing you bought with your 150K winning? Nice road bike. I actually was not into biking whenever we won. I'm trying to think, what did we buy? First thing we bought was a nice dinner for my girlfriend and I. That was nice. But I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do anything. The one thing that I have an issue with and like letting myself go on is very often I buy the girlfriend and I nice dinners. Like I eat like a pig. I eat. So I don't even know if that counts because that's not out of the ordinary. What can we? A couple months later, we bought a house. So probably a house. But that was happening regardless of the winnings. It made it a lot more comfortable to buy it. I'll say that. Okay. Now Chubb goes 128. Mike Williams 129. At this point, I'm actually kind of okay with seeing Chubb go, even though y'all know I am usually a pretty big Nick Chubb fan here, and I am so dumb. I am so. Actually, I'm not that dumb. It is what it is. My thought here is, okay, we can go Chase Brown and still get Dotson on the way back around, but we also have the ability to double stack Dalton Schultz. So I don't want to sit here and act like it was the best decision in the world to take Chase Brown. To be honest with you, I don't even really like Chase Brown. I don't think he's that good. I don't think Zach Moss is that good. But we went through with the video earlier today, and we showed the historical data based off how top offenses produce very solid options at the running back position in fantasy. And based off that data, based off current projections for the Cincinnati Bengals this season, and based off how cheap Chase Brown and Zach Moss currently are, even if I don't love them as players, I probably still need to be mixing them in. So we will go Chase Brown. We're going to take Jahan Dotson here at 135. You can make an argument, however, that it would have potentially made sense to go Dalton Schultz with our first tight end spot instead of Chase Brown and then Jahan Dotson at 135. So could have been a very bad decision to go Chase Brown. I think we have to kind of go Dotson here at 135. I don't necessarily know if we have an option there, but it is what it is. Okay. Rock says Debo might get traded. Let me see how any of these Niners receivers. I've actually been getting Debo. I'm sorry. I've actually been getting Ayuk in the third round as of late. So I've actually drafted a considerable amount of Ayuk. Let me see how many of the Niners I have. I have 11% Sticky Ricky, 10% Debo, 9% Purdy, 7% Kittle, 7% Ayuk, 4% CMC. So I'm overweight Sticky Ricky, just a tad. Overweight Debo a tad. Overweight Purdy, just ever so slightly. And then a little bit underweight Kittle and Ayuk, but pretty much almost in line with the market averages. Okay. And also, I did see, as I pulled up my phone, I just saw the email from Antler Ice about the meetup. I didn't open it because I don't want to lose it, my friend. But I got it. I got the email. Okay. Tyler Algier off the board, 149. Cousins goes 148. Great for us to see quarterbacks go. Selfishly, every time a QB goes, it's great news for us. What's the blurb on Marshawn Lloyd? Not practicing to start camp. Lloyd isn't practicing Monday due to a hip injury. It's a suboptimal start to training camp for a rookie, hoping to push A.J. Dillon for a backup work behind Josh Jacobs. While his 220-pound frame and a 4.46 speed hint at lead back potential, Lloyd could be brought along more slowly than a typical third-round pick after fumbling 11 times. Okay, so literally nothing about that blurb matters at all. So we are just running back, wide receiver, tight ends. Dear God. We're going to go Jaleel as our last RB here. I don't know if the smoke with Javonte Williams and his situation and the Audric Estime hype, I don't know if any of this actually matters. Where there's smoke, maybe there's fire. There's uncertainty in Denver. And if I'm entering in a $5 tournament trying to win $200,000, what I'm kind of looking for is uncertainty. Okay. Let's see this. Jalen Wright goes. I'm going to go ahead. We will take Noah Fant. Okay, now this is a very interesting conversation to have. Fugo says both quarterbacks have a week 14 bye, Mason. Two things with this. One, since this is the puppy tournament where we are really just trying to optimize for weeks 15, 16, 17, I am okay drafting a 2-quarterback build with 2 quarterbacks on the same bye and sacrificing the 16 points in week 14 to hopefully have the best setup that we can for the final 3 weeks. Now, with that being said, is it something that we are actively trying to do? No. Where we should avoid it. Now, maybe this means go back in a time machine and Mason, stop being an idiot. Just take Tajee Spears instead of Jaden Daniels. That's probably the correct answer there. The incorrect answer is if you're halfway through one of these underdog drafts and you realize, crap, my 2 quarterbacks have the same bye and I took these 2 quarterbacks early, so I'm naturally set up for a 2-quarterback build rather than a 3-quarterback build. You don't then circle back around and then take a quarterback and pick 178 just to cover the 16 points in week 14. You maybe give yourself a slap on the wrist and say, hey, buddy, make sure you pay better attention to this next time. But we're not going to change our construction because of it, if that makes sense. Really, the only time that I'm really caring about the bye weeks is the Eliminator and the Marathon. If this was either the Marathon or the Eliminator, and I noticed that my 2 quarterbacks had the same bye week, no matter what, you have to take a 3rd quarterback. But here, it is what it is. Rock says, who else does so many underdog drafts that you know every team's bye week by heart? So in the past, when I never did the Eliminator contest and I just did the regular drafts on Underdog, there's no way that I could know that. But now I am pretty damn close to knowing every bye week by heart, just because with the Eliminator drafts, you do really have to monitor it. I know Bijan week 12, Brees week 12, Debo week 9. I think the Niners are all week 9. The Lions are week 5. Dylan out in Scotland. Okay. Rashad Bateman goes 177. Let's see. We are done with running back. We are done with Malachi Corley has been a big time faller. I'm almost okay just continuing to take the falling knife though. This is a really interesting question. Diego says, does balance exposures equal a higher chance of eating the rake? We will dive into this in just 1 second because it is a very interesting question. And please do not let me forget that. If I forget, make me go back to it. This is an easier thing to answer real quick. Wombly says, got first overall my 12-team redraft league. Start 2 receivers in a flex. The 2-3 turn, are we going to go with an elite quarterback or another wide receiver and a running back, whoever falls? I think you go with an elite level quarterback. If it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex league, yeah, go with an elite quarterback at the 2-3 turn. Dave says, hey, Mason, how would you draft the weekly winners draft? Okay, that's going to be a little bit of a longer discussion as well, so we'll circle back to it. We're going to take Ben Sinnott here as their second tight end to pair up with Noah Fant. Let me show this team off, and we are going to be bouncing. I like the team. I don't love the team. Selecting at 10, 11, 12 is always a difficult task. I think it's an okay build. Wide receiver, we have Puka, Marvin Harrison, Stephon Diggs, Chris Godwin, Shaheed, Jahan Dotson, Malachi Corley. Quarterback, we have CJ Stroud stacked up with Stephon Diggs. We have Jaden Daniels double stacked with Jahan Dotson and Ben Sinnott. Running back, we have Derrick Henry, Ramondre Stevenson, Jonathan Brooks, Chase Brown, Jaleel, and tight end we have Fant and Sinnott. So, fine team. We're going to go with 1 more wide receiver and 1 more tight ends, but we are not going to waste any time. I'm going to try to get 3 drafts going today. Hit the like button just for the hell of it. We're going to do a bunch of drafts regardless, but go down there and drop a like, and let's hop in another one of these bad boys. Okay, we are in. And let me pull that up on my phone just so. Okay, we're pick 10. Thanks for nothing, Underdog, but we'll figure it out. Okay. But Diego says, does balance exposure equal a higher chance of eating the rake? The Pound, my guy. I would love your take in this. Let me pull this up one more time. I think it all comes down to where do you expect your edge to come from? If you think that your edge is strictly coming based off of player takes and based off of, oh my gosh, for example, previous to the DUI, Jordan Addison, my most drafted guy, I'm sitting here going, the market is so, I'm saying hypothetically, I'm sitting here going, the market's so wrong with Jordan Addison. He's ranked as a wide receiver 4 in ADP at the moment. In reality, he should be a lot closer to a mid wide receiver 2. Hypothetically, if we have that take, do I then go out there and draft Jordan Addison in every draft in round 5 and sit here with an 80% exposure, just going, okay, if we're going to sit down at the roulette table, I only want to let the ball spin once, and I don't want to be paying the rake by spinning it over and over and over again. If that's your take, I think you can go for it with certain points. I will have a handful of guys that I go through and I am overweight in, but not to a massive degree. Because I personally don't think that my strength with these drafts is sitting here and identifying with player takes, oh my gosh, Jordan Addison should be the wide receiver 24, and instead he's being drafted as the wide receiver 40. Let me take all of them. Personally, I think my current edge in these drafts, if I have one, that is understanding the tournament that I am stepping into and understanding from a construction perspective what it would take to potentially take down that tournament. Stepping into an eliminator room and understanding, okay, the strategy and the construction in an eliminator draft is going to be wildly different than the optimal strategy for a puppy or a best ball mania draft. Say, for instance, with a puppy or best ball mania draft, I think right now there is a significant edge to grab both an elite quarterback and an elite tight end. Whereas in an eliminator draft, I think that instead you have an edge not taking an elite quarterback and an elite tight end, and rather instead going with 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. I think if you can bucket players off by their specific profile of production that they're going to give you this next season, aka we look at Nick Chubb, Jonathan Brooks, TJ Hawkinson, Rashee Rice, Jordan Addison as guys that have high ceilings in weeks 15, 16, 17, but will be discounted for the production that they give you at the beginning of the season. Maybe those are guys that we're excited to go through and take in spots that the tournaments are highly skewed for payouts in weeks 15, 16, 17. Whereas on the flip side of that, maybe those are guys that we're going to be avoiding in the eliminator. We're going to be avoiding in the marathon. So I understand the thought process saying, oh my gosh, if all your exposures are under 20% and you don't take super hard takes, you're just going to be paying the rake and you're just going to have an average performance. I'll remind you, I won multiple tournaments 2 years ago without having a single player with an exposure over 20%. And the guy that I had as my most drafted player, which is why I had an incredible advance rate across every contest with Josh Jacobs, didn't even do anything in the fantasy football playoffs. Hell, our finish could have been a lot better. But instead, my significant edge that we had 2 years ago, other than hitting on some correct player takes, was really identifying that the elite level quarterbacks were severely undervalued and going all in on those guys. Now, sadly, I did not take down any tournaments last season, but last season, the correct edge that people got were, okay, in round 18, instead of taking whoever's at the top of ADP, let's scroll down. Let's take some of these guys that aren't being drafted often that maybe have extremely high ceilings, such as Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams. Now, I always understood we want low-owned players with very high ceilings weeks 15, 16, 17. Now, I personally was not smart enough to know it was going to be Kyron and Puka, so I wasn't able to take advantage of that edge. So it's a very interesting conversation, but long story short, I think it comes down to trying to figure out why you would be good at these drafts if you are. Because most people aren't going to be. Most people will lose money in these. Now, speaking of losing money, Dave asked, Mason, how do you draft the weekly winner tournament? I know for a fact that I have no idea what I'm doing in weekly winners. So personally, this season, I think I maybe have drafted 0 weekly winners. I can go ahead and pull this up for you. Yeah, but I haven't stepped in that room. I know that there are going to be other people that have way better takes than I do. There are going to be people that are more so centered around DFS. I think it's more of a DFS style mindset if you want to try to tackle weekly winners, which is not my specialty. I wish it was. I wish I could sit here and say, oh, I have a foolproof plan. This is what you should be doing in weekly winners on Underdog. The reality is I just don't know. So I stick in my lane and I don't try to step there. We'll go ahead. We'll take DJ Moore 34. I do want to reiterate, DJ Moore has definitely been a faller. Okay. Now we have Zay Flowers, Derrick Henry, Amari all off. Personally, I think we just kind of talked about this. I would love to get Sam Laporta. We actually get him. I think one of the things that I'm doing this season in comparison to the rest of the field is I'm going to be very much overweight elite tight end and elite quarterback builds. I think Kelsey, Laporta, Andrews, Kincaid, these guys are phenomenal prices. I think in general, Josh Allen, obviously Allen goes here very early, but if you can get Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts in round 4, great prices. Mahomes, Lamar in round 5, great prices. I'm going to be taking a lot of them. Okay. Now, let's move this. And of course, if you have not done so already, hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe to the channel if you play fantasy football. I don't know if I've told a single person to subscribe for years now. I don't say years now. I'm sure I have, but at least this season I haven't. And also, if you want to get in a draft with us, I know I've told you this 1,000 times by now. I don't know how you haven't already done it if you haven't. Underdog Fantasy, find that link in the description, in the comment section. Code FLOCK will get you hooked up in my 2024 Fantasy Football Draft Guide, my 2024 Fantasy Football Rankings, 50% deposit bonus up to $250. We're doing these drafts every single night where you can go, Mason, you're an idiot. You clearly don't have an edge, which maybe I don't. And you can come in and you can wipe the floor with me, ladies and gentlemen. And Vinny says 300,000 subscribers for a 24-hour stream. If we hit 300,000 subscribers before the start of the football season, I will 100% do a 24-hour stream. I'm telling you, the only way that happens is if somehow our YouTube shorts start popping off, which they aren't. But if somehow that were to occur, then all of a sudden we get a bunch of YouTube short subscribers that don't really matter. And then I'm stuck doing a 24-hour live stream. Now, Jared says, what do you think about pick 12 in our draft? I'm in at 8. We'll look at 8 and 12. 12 goes Taylor, Gibbs, Henry out the gate. If you go 3 running backs out the gate on Underdog, you are going to be forcing your hand where no matter what in the middle rounds, you have to go wide receiver. Which is personally not what I want to set myself up to do, because personally, I think wide receiver in the middle rounds this year is kind of gross. I would much prefer going with other positions. We're going to, as I say that, we're going to go Jaden Reed here at 58. But I know that team at 60, they're probably going to have to double tap the wide receiver position. But if you're okay with the wide receiver values in rounds 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, then maybe you can go 3 running backs out the gate. I don't want to be the guy taking all those options. So I personally am not going to be taking 3 running backs out the gate here. But I will. Nick says what we'll take for a 12-hour stream. Here's what we are going to do. I don't want to promise anything, but like I said, I've been talking about this for a while now. We are going to have the Flock League. This is going to be the new league that I care most about, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I don't get last. It's going to be myself, a bunch of YouTube creators. You can see them all there. And maybe even another special guest that we haven't let y'all know yet. But this is going to be like the draft we do at the meetup a month from now. More info to come. Plan to be in Austin, August 22nd. And I think, so obviously it's a very basic thing to do the 24 hours in Waffle House and like take away 30 minutes for every waffle you eat, yada, yada, yada thing for the person who loses their fantasy league. But I think we're probably going to do that this year. I'm going to try. I have a meeting with everybody on Friday. I'm going to try to convince them that the punishment for losing the Flock League will be you have to do the 24-hour Waffle House challenge, and you have to live stream you doing it. You have to do a 24-hour live stream inside a Waffle House. You can take 30 minutes off for every waffle you eat. I know Waffle House challenge is basic, but I think a live stream there, I think it'd be fun. If y'all have any other ideas where it can be a 24-hour live stream where you have to do this, I'm all ears. But for the time being, I think that would be the easiest setup. The easiest and most entertaining. Like, I think the payoff for how easy it would be the highest. Okay. So let's see. Deontay Johnson, 78. So we took Rachaad White there in round 6 just to kind of give us a little bit of flexibility in this draft. But typically at pick 82, this is a range where we do want to be taking running back. The only wide receiver that's here in ADP is going to be Jameson Williams. And Jameson's really the only instance I want to take Jameson is if I am completely toast at wide receiver, which this is not a build in which we are. We're going to go ahead. We will take Aaron Jones at 82. I do take Jordan Addison when he makes it to us in round 8, especially if we need a wide receiver. Like, even if I really needed a wide receiver here, I would have gone Addison. Like, if I was that team that took 3 running backs within the first 3 rounds, personally, I'm probably taking Jordan Addison, but we'll see what they do. They go Zamir White at 84 for their 4th running back, and Cortland Sutton, very interesting. I wonder if that team is going to draft. How many more running backs will that team draft? Because if that team takes 6 running backs, it may screw this entire room. Which, with that in mind, I'm actually going to take Ramondre Stevenson as our RB3 here. Let's go ahead. Let's take Ramondre. Aiden says, are you going to have a redraft video? My friend, the video we put out today could be used for redraft leagues. We specifically talk about ESPN ADP and ESPN draft strategy in there. Benny says, pick 5, Chase Waddle, Kyron. Love the wide receiver Kyron build. Higgins, Andrews in round 5 is great value there. Montgomery, then Burrow to pair up with Chase. I'm just looking at this. Sorry. Roshan, Chuba, Ford, Zeke, Montgomery, Kyron. Personally, I think if my tight ends were Andrews and Ben Sinnott, unless I know you have Goddard. Actually, if my tight ends were Andrews and Goddard, I'm probably not taking the 3rd tight ends. I'm probably using an extra roster spot on wide receiver, personally. Yeah, I think I go one more receiver minus Ben Sinnott if you already have Andrews and Goddard. Now, A-Rod says sign up for a minute on Kill Tony. I would love that more than anything in the world. If that could be the punishment, it'd be phenomenal. I literally, for years now, have dreamed of what my minute would be on Kill Tony. I've literally practiced my minute on Kill Tony in front of my girlfriend. And I would straight up bomb, of course. Any new person bombs on Kill Tony. Maybe 1 out of 100 are decent. But the issue is hundreds of people sign up every week. Well, are we supposed to go to Kill Tony every single every single Monday night for 2 years to try to get on? There's no way. John says I was at Kill Tony when Gillis was Trump. There's no way, my guy. There's no way you were there for that. So I've gone to the Comedy Mothership a bunch, which is where it's done. It's Rogan's club, of course. But I've never been able to get a ticket to Kill Tony. The second that tickets drop to Kill Tony, they immediately sell out. Which is almost the same as all the shows at the Mothership. Kill Tony's just like extra sells out quickly. I've been able to get tickets to all the other shows, but Kill Tony. Okay. John says that was the best. They sell fast. I'm jealous. I'm so jealous. Okay. Maybe one day says, any hope for Kendrick Bourne in New England? The dude got paid, but is going undrafted in most spots. I've taken a decent amount of Kendrick Bourne in round 18. Okay, AD Mitchell goes. I'm going to go ahead and take Caleb here. We're going to pair up Caleb with DJ Moore. I think I'd rather have Brock Purdy in a vacuum, but Purdy doesn't have a ton of rushing upside. So typically when we take Purdy, we want to have him stacked. So it is what it is. I'd rather have Purdy over Caleb, but I think for this construction, Caleb makes a little more sense. John says he loves the mothership. So just in case you're not from Austin, and I'm going to try to get mothership tickets when all the fantasy creators are here. For Flock Draft Week, you better be at the meetup on the 22nd. But the Rogan Comedy Club is such a good setup in Austin if you haven't been. It's one on 6th Street. Super cool. So if you like going out, you can go to a comedy show at like 10, get out at like midnight, and then go through and hang out downtown after and get drinks with your friends. Which, even if I don't drink, I still do. I just get some club sodas because I'm boring. But anyway, super fun for that. Also, like we've gone to shows where literally the lineup's been like Joe Rogan, Shane Gillis, Tony Hinchcliffe, Ron White, all in one show. We've seen Dave Chappelle there as just a random pop-in. We didn't buy tickets to Dave Chappelle. But no matter what the show is, tickets are $50. And they make it where you can't resell them. Because if you think about it, like if you were to go to a show, like just random, let's say in Miami, just a random city. And it's like, hey, this is a small comedy club where everybody's close together. And you get to see Joe Rogan, Tony Hinchcliffe, Shane Gillis. You get to see everybody in one show. Tickets for that would probably be $800 minimum. But if you can get them on time when they drop at the mothership, they're literally $50. It's like the best deal ever. So fun. John says there's a 2-drink minimum, my guy. 2-drink minimum. John says, I saw Chappelle at the new Moody. That was the best stand-up ever. So I saw Chappelle. Okay, I have a funny Chappelle story. Let me pull this up. I think we maybe told this story whenever we were streaming last year. Drafts. I don't know if y'all remember it. But let's see what we are doing here. In terms of quarterback, we could go Herbert and then look for Quentin Johnson a little later. I've already drafted too much Quentin Johnson. It's kind of embarrassing. We could go Mike Williams and then grab ourselves Aaron Rodgers later. We're probably going to do that. But so the weekend that Chappelle was in Austin last year was the weekend that I really started running. And it was like the first long run I'd ever done over 10 miles. And I ran like 18 miles and I was just freaking dying. I was out of it. I thought I was hallucinating. And where I was running around the river, I saw Dave Chappelle walking. And I couldn't tell for sure if it was Dave Chappelle. Like I said, I felt like I was hallucinating. But he wore a shirt that literally said Dave Chappelle. And we were going to the mothership that night. So I called my girlfriend immediately. And I was like, hey, I just saw Dave Chappelle on the river. He's already here. It was like a Thursday or whatever. I was like, and obviously Chappelle and Rogan are buddies. So I'm like, I think he may stop by the show tonight. And so we were all excited, yada, yada, yada. We go to the show. Normal show through like everything. And then the show was hilarious. We saw some comedian that I can't even remember his name, was the headliner. But super funny. We leave. We're like standing out on 6th Street. We went with a bunch of our coworkers. And they were all standing, chit-chatting, figuring out where they wanted to go, what bar they were going to go to after. And then the workers of the mothership, like a couple people that saw us that we left and we were standing out in front, they're like, hey, if y'all, but we were disappointed. I was like, oh, we didn't see Dave Chappelle. And they came out and they're like, hey, Dave Chappelle just stopped in if you want to go in and see him. And then we ran back in. We had to lock our phones up, like the thing again. We got to run in, and it was really cool to say that we were able to see him, but he didn't actually do any real material when we saw him, just because he like stopped in. It was like 1 a.m. He was ripping cigs, drunk as hell, just walking around the stage, just riffing, like, but still super cool. I would love to see a real set, but still, nonetheless. But Nick says, would love to see the loser do stand-up comedy. Act where the others get to write their script, and loser doesn't get a preview and live stream, of course. Not too bad. The issue is that could negatively impact some of us. That could be tough. Could be tough. Like the idea, my guy. Now let's move this over. Justin Herbert falling a considerable amount here. Obviously, quarterback still in play for us. We only have Caleb Williams at the moment. We could also go Stafford on the way back around, right? What's the Hawkinson thing? Hawkinson to be placed on the PUP list as soon as, even if this was priced in, as soon as this is the headline when anybody goes to click TJ Hawkinson's name, I can guarantee you TJ Hawkinson's price is going down from here. If every time someone goes to click draft TJ Hawkinson, they have to read this as the headline news, I promise you Hawkinson's ADP is going to be lowered. Okay. TJ Hawkinson does go 152. Let's see if we end up getting Stafford. This draft's gone a lot slower than the first one did. We're going to go ahead. We will take Matthew Stafford to pair him up with Puka Nacua. We could do the mental gymnastics and go, oh, the team's after us. They don't have any Rams, so maybe we can take somebody else and get Stafford on the way back around. Really, I'm not sitting here and super excited about any of these other players that we could draft. Two, you have no idea what the hell these teams are going to do between us. So I'll just take Stafford. We're not going to roll the dice. Maybe if we had some crazy value falling to us, maybe if, say, like Sticky Ricky fell to us, I'd feel compelled to go, oh, let's take Sticky Ricky and see if Stafford will make it back around, but I'm not going to be rolling the dice here. And I think we may just go ahead and take Rodgers too. Like the thing is these running backs, Vidal, Jalen Wright, Tyler Algier. Tyler Algier would be my favorite running back to take out of this list. But he's like, it's the same as these other running backs that we're going to be looking at on the way back around. So I'd almost rather just grab a QB3 in Aaron Rodgers and have Rodgers paired up with Mike Williams. But when we go three quarterbacks here, we are only going to be taking two tight ends regardless, especially when we have Laporta, right? So it is a little bit funny. I mean, sometimes even if I have Laporta, I will go with three tight ends, specifically if we get like Laporta in round 4, and at the same time, we wait to take our second tight end until maybe like round 15, round 16, round 17. Then maybe I'm going to take 3 of them. But here, since we went with 3 quarterbacks, I don't think we have the ability to go with 3 tight ends as well. Because specifically how early we drafted Laporta. Lee Watley says, call up Impractical Jokers and make the loser do one. Okay. I've loved, and this is obviously super common type. Impractical Jokers is one of the biggest shows ever. But I have loved Impractical Jokers since literally I was like a freshman in high school. Like Practical Joker's been around for a decade now. And I was thinking about this because I showed my girlfriend Impractical Jokers like a year ago. And then lately we've been watching it if we eat lunch together. So my favorite thing in the world is to throw on Impractical Jokers as I eat lunch. If you were to rank TV shows, like best TV shows of all time, I think consensus, I don't want to say what consensus is. Everybody's going to have their own opinion. I think most people would agree, not most people, a lot of people would agree that Breaking Bad's at 1. Personally, that's mine. I've tried watching The Sopranos. I made it 2 episodes, couldn't get in any further. I know The Sopranos like the original Breaking Bad, blah, 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 blah. Breaking Bad's my 1. Afterwards, I don't know how many shows I'd have over Practical Jokers. Breaking Bad 1. I honestly, for what it is, and it's the most basic thing in the world, I get it. The Office, for what it is, could not be better. It could not be more quotable. You could rewatch it over and over and over again. It is actually funny. So I think I would go Breaking Bad 1, Office 2, and Practical Jokers 3. Game of Thrones, I think, would be in my top 5. I think I was watching Game of Thrones last offseason. I feel like I bored y'all with all my Game of Thrones talk. My opinion with Game of Thrones is I think people made too big of a deal about how bad the last season was. I agree the last season was not good, but I don't think it was the worst thing in the world. I don't think it ruined the show like everybody else says. I actually think that like season 6 was kind of bad. Like seasons 5 and 6 were kind of boring of Game of Thrones. But specifically because Battle of the Bastards, that episode, it's like that's the episode where you have the meme of like Jon Snow pulling out a sword as like an army rushes towards him. And then you have the Bruce Bolton, not Bruce Bolton, whatever, the Bolton army facing Jon Snow's army. That episode in my mind is the best. We're going to go Bucky Irving. I was thinking about going with the tight end here, but we got to go Bucky Irving. That episode is the best piece of cinema I've ever seen in my entire life. It doesn't matter if it's a movie. It doesn't matter if it's a show. That fight scene was the coolest thing that I've ever seen. So I think for that alone, I probably put Game of Thrones in my top 5. So Game of Thrones maybe comes in at 4. What else could I be missing here? Yeah, I am too young for The Wire. I haven't seen it. How I Met Your Mother. Anything with a laugh track is not rewatchable for me. When I was like super little, that 70s show I really liked. And I recently tried rewatching that 70s show. And I've tried watching Friends. I've tried watching like Seinfeld. Any sitcom with a laugh track, that style in my mind, I think has aged so poorly that I can't even try to watch it, to be honest. TRD says you need to watch The Boys. Yeah, I haven't seen The Boys. Tresner says Always Sunny, definitely up there. I loved Always Sunny. My freshman year at UT, I wish I should have gotten out there more. I should have done more. And eventually I did at UT, but literally the first semester, outside of like hanging out with my friends during the weekend, during the week, all I did was sit there and watch Netflix, like Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday. And I watched It's Always Sunny. I think at the time, maybe it was like the first, I don't know how many seasons were on Netflix. Maybe it was like 6 seasons, 7 seasons. So I think the last season of It's Always Sunny, whenever I watched it, was, I know nobody's going to remember this, I'm just spitballing, but is like when they were on like a cruise ship and it was sinking or something like that. But I watched it like in 3 weeks. Rumham, One Tree Hill. I've seen a little bit of Workaholics with my girlfriend, but the league's really good. I can't put it in my top 5 though. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, I never really was into. It's Always Sunny's really good. Somebody says laugh tracks are rough. Like, yeah, if any show has a laugh track, it immediately becomes unwatchable for me. Which, when I was younger, I used to like it. It's just, I think that form of like media has just aged so poorly. We'll go Jelani Woods, and we're only going to take 2 tight ends. I think we're going to take the 6th running back. Running back, we have Rashad White, Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Jerome Ford, Bucky Irving. Actually, running back, I mean, I actually don't really mind Tank Bigsby. I know Bigsby's sitting at the top of ADP. We want someone maybe a little more unique. But I think we're fine with 7 wide receivers for this build with where we took them. Dexter, I watched the first season. I didn't get any further. I didn't watch an episode of Cobra Kai, my friend. I've heard Sons of Anarchy is really good. But My Name is Earl, I really did like back in the day. TGL says we need a laugh track. Honestly, we do. Oh my gosh. Okay. RIP. We're going to pretend like that happened. Nobody look at round 18 here. Nobody look at round 18. Oh my gosh. Super tough rounds. Rounds 1 through 17, we crushed this draft. Oh my gosh. We really did one hell of a job here. Ooh, rounds 1 through 17 on the right path. We did exactly what we needed to. I do blame the chat. Y'all got me way too off topic. And John, yeah, I watched, but anyway, oh my gosh, we're all over the place. Really appreciate you, ladies and gentlemen. I'm starving. Probably going to go ahead and eat dinner. Going to get 3 drafts going tomorrow, but the girlfriend went and picked us up dinner and got here like 20 minutes ago. So it's about time we go ahead and get another one going. I just ruined that last one, but appreciate you. Nice talking with you. Really hope I get to see you tomorrow. Thank you for everything. And yeah, see you.